Welcome to the next episode of Powerhouse Spouse. This is my lovely bride, Elliot Schwartz, the founder, CEO, and COO, and CFO of Powerhouse Women.
You just took that and ran with it. I love it.
It felt good. It felt right. So I'm Elliot Schwartz, I'm her husband, and today we want to talk about investing in yourself. She's crying. I don't know why.
You just entertain me. Yes, we do. We thought it would be interesting to talk about how we have invested in ourselves.
Totally.
How we haven't always been on the same page about investing in ourselves and our business.
Debatable. Okay.
No, you were doing a much better job. You go.
No, that's actually very true. So I remember the first time you came to me and you're like, hey, I want to invest 15 grand in a mastermind. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, hey, I would like to buy 15 guns. So
that's probably what you really did say.
I don't think I really said that, but in my heart, that's how I felt. So after I woke up from passing out, we had a discussion.
Yeah. And so let's even maybe set the context of where we were at that point. And I mean, I talk a lot on this podcast because I'm sure you listen to every episode. I'm sure you know that I talk a lot about investing in yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, he listens to me enough, so he's off the hook. He doesn't have to listen to every
I listen
podcast.
to episodes.
But I talk a lot about investing in myself and the business and how I've gained so much from that. And the first investment was when I joined that program where I was writing the book. And that one was like $2,000.
That's true.
But it wasn't, so that didn't seem quite as scary, but it still was little bit of a leap. And I talk all the time how I would have quit so many times. There were at least 3 times that I talked myself into why it made more sense not to finish the book, which if you don't know, the book, Powerhouse Woman, inspired literally everything you see now. So had I never written the book, we wouldn't have this podcast, the event, anything.
Yeah.
And I remember how powerful it was to be have something on the line that made me I would not quit. Because I couldn't, even though you probably would have been supportive, you wouldn't have yelled at me or anything, but I was not willing to go back to you and say hey, that, a couple $1,000 I invested to write this book. Yeah, I'm just not going to do that anymore. Yeah. Because it just felt like you had invested so much belief in me to cheer me on and want me to do that. It wasn't even so much about the money. And I think that taught me such an important lesson about what happens when I invest in myself. So then fast forward, we had I think we had one Powerhouse event going into year 2 when we really started to realize that, okay, this is becoming a thing. This is going to become a business. And I remember having this distinct feeling inside me that I was going to be the only thing that got in the way of this becoming what it was supposed to. And hearing from friends who had done masterminds and things like that, and I was already kind of in this mindset that I was looking for what that next step for me would be. And then this mastermind opportunity comes along, and it was I don't think I've ever shared the amount. It was $15,000 for a year. Yeah. And that was more than my car at the time. It felt like such a big risk, but at the same time, there was something in my mind. I remember when I really looked at where I wanted to be, and I looked at just how I was operating and knowing I needed to shift into a whole new version of myself. There was something in my mind that shifted even before I brought it to you. And it was it didn't become can I afford this? It was a how. And even that, before I ever came to you, I knew that in order to get what I wanted, or have you on board truly, because I wouldn't have done it if you would have been a hell no, but I knew I had to have a business plan for how I was going to use that investment to grow our business into something bigger. Yeah. And for me, that was a big switch, not to be afraid or come to you defensive, to kind of understand where your hesitations might be, but know that same thing, I wasn't willing to let you down. So I had to like do the math myself and come up with like my strategy for how I was going to turn that into something bigger. So then I come to you. I don't even remember like where I probably waited. My mom taught me this. You got to wait till they're the right time. When they're in the right mindset, they're happy, they're well fed.
That's a big one.
That is a big one. But I don't remember where we were, maybe on a walk or something. That's usually when I'll spring things on you.
I remember talking about the plan though, and I was like, that was really important to me, like to see that you had a plan for the ROI piece. I didn't really know what a mastermind was, so you kind of walked me through the format and the networking piece, and to learn from people who are doing similar things in you and maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead, and can really guide you. And so all those things made a lot of sense, and it was still a stretch for me because I've never invested in anything like that before. But I knew I believed in you, and I knew I believed in the vision of where we were going. And just to see and hear the thought of why you wanted to invest and your plan around these are the things that I want to learn. These are the best ways to learn. And people like, hey, you want to go back and get a master's? Like, people applaud that, right?
Yeah.
Way less expensive than that. So to get that hands-on experience from people who have gone down that road before, like once I really understood what it was and once I saw your plan, I was completely bought in.
So would you say, like, so for someone who is right now thinking, okay, I really feel like a mastermind or having a mentor or something like that is next for me.
Yeah.
And I talk to a lot of women, obviously, who are considering our mentorship programs, and what can come up, not a lot, but I need to talk to my spouse, like I really need to get their buy-in. And I'm a huge fan of that. I'm never going to say like, oh, screw him if he doesn't support you. Like it really is a decision for our household.
100%.
Yeah. So what would that be, like your advice is go in with, with a plan, or what else would you give for advice?
And I think like even hearing that you're like, hey, if this is like, if you don't think this is right or this like is not a good time, like I'll wait. You gave me that option. I don't think that was really an option though. But I just like that. It was still like I was part of the decision, meant a lot. And like I said, I believed in what it was that you were doing. And it was the best thing that we ever did.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the best investment we ever made, I would say, was that. Not even from necessarily the results. I mean, you made your money back and then some from what you learned. No question about it. But just, it was the best thing we ever did because I feel like there was a switch that went off in you in how you approached yourself, your brand, the identity that you had as a CEO.
Yeah. And that's the thing I try to talk all the time to our community about is like the investment and what you learn. You definitely want to be wise about the investments you're making and make sure you're, investing in people that have built businesses that you want to build. But it truly isn't even so much the growth that happens in your business. That's almost like the cherry on top. It really is the growth within you. Yeah. When it makes you see yourself differently, and therefore, different results show up. So I don't even know what it was that I felt. I knew I was ready because it was resonating with me. And in the past, that would have sounded like the craziest investment. So how if you're kind of ready is you feel like you're resonating with that idea, or you see a program and you're like, man, I just feel like I'm meant to be a part of that. And I firmly believe that because it was a financial stretch for where we were at the time, it did make me show up differently. So I don't know that you should really wait until you feel comfortable with an investment, because
great point.
I don't know that I would have showed up the same if I would have been like, no big deal. This is just, just a little chump change.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
So we had that experience, and really it was I would go away to it was 4 weekends over the course of a year, and truly just the way I was showing up it literally 10x'd our business. And I don't ever promise those results, but like who I became in the process, like the next year ended up, we 10x'd our investment in that. But then for me, I was way more comfortable with the idea of investing. And I also knew, here's the thing, once you get a taste of like how much you grow and you're in that kind of environment, when I would think about like, maybe I'll just take some time off, not be in a mastermind, in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, but who could I become? Like, who will I become if we're consistently in that kind of environment. And there's just something that like in me, especially since you had been such a supporter, like beyond words. And I would come home and like be so excited to share everything I learned. And knowing, you know, you're like one of the best salespeople I know, like you're so great with like big thinking. I started to think how awesome it would be for us to both be in that kind of environment together. So we ended up this year investing in a mastermind together.
Yeah.
And that's been cool.
That's been amazing.
Also, there were some like hesitations or just sort of like roadblocks because you joined as part of Powerhouse Women. So we both joined the same mastermind together as a couple, but for the business of Powerhouse Women. So tell me a little bit of like what process you had to go through before we made that decision.
Well, I had some good advice because I was talking with somebody who had gone through the program before, my boy Chase, and he had gone through as a part of his wife's business. And I was just picking his brain like, hey, you know, do you think it's worth it? Did you get value? And he gave me great advice. He said, hey, you either go in like full steam ahead, like you're doing this for Powerhouse Women. You are learning how to, sorry, I'm karate chopping the couch as I'm talking. I'm new to this whole thing, but it just felt right. But he said to go in and like give your full attention and to learn and grow based on building that brand. Don't go in like, hey, I want to learn to start my own thing. You'll just end up comparing yourself, and it couldn't have been better advice because I went in knowing like I want to be part of Powerhouse Women. I want to learn. I want to be a part of the conversation. I want to apply my skills to the business. And if something were to ever happen on my end for my own brand, that's great. I'll have that information. I'll have that knowledge. But it was really just in full support and to be a bigger part of your business and our business.
And talk a little bit about, if you're willing to share, were there any times? So, I mean, even for me, I remember walking into that room of like really, really successful people and feeling kind of intimidated. Yeah. Was there anything that like you experienced being, you know, the support role, even though we know you're just as big a part, but it could be viewed as like, oh, you're here for your wife's business. Did you have to go through any of that?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a little insecurity around that. Like, wow, look at all these people. They all have their own businesses. They all have their own brands. Like, I'm just part of this. Like, I don't know. There was definitely like an ego play there for sure that I just had to like, no, this is amazing. Like, we have a business. It's going good. And I need to just own the fact that I'm a powerful man supporting a powerful woman. Like, so, but there was that. Like, I would be lying if I said that wasn't there at all. That was definitely in my space, and I just had to literally own it and say like, yeah, and guess what? That's pretty freaking cool. If you have a problem with that, I'll choke slam you. So let's not take it there. But there was definitely a like that was part of it for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, we both walked in and we both had our own stuff to overcome. Yeah. But I remember just being so proud of you and how you showed up. And I think it was that great advice that we had from the friend before walking in. Yeah. And, you know, just you've always been so willing to you've been the supportive like champion for me without having it mean anything about yourself. Yeah. Like a lot of people could be intimidated by someone who's really ambitious and you've always been like the biggest supporter of me being exactly who I am. Yeah. So let the record show that you're amazing.
Was it a little typewriter in a courtroom? I forget what they're called.
A court stenographer. Okay,
the fact that you know that is impressive. But yeah.
Random facts.
Can you read that back, please, what she just said? But I guess I just want to say this. I see who you are and how you are so driven to provide value and to help people out. Like, it's really coming from a pure place of contribution. And I just wanted to be a part of that to make a difference. Like, I've never been around that before. Like, someone who's just so genuinely excited and committed to making people's lives better. And it's just like a special thing to be a part of. And I just see the work, the consistency you put in. And so sometimes I think that you forget how special you are and how much value you bring. So it's fun for me to be a part and to be next to you saying, you need to charge more. Like, you're amazing. Like, you belong, you deserve to be here. Yeah. You're amazing. Like, you've done that for me so much. And it's fun to like be that for you. Yeah,
and you are. Are you trying to make me cry on here?
Are you crying?
I was crying from laughing when we started, and now I'm crying because that was really sweet.
Oh.
Thank you. That's very nice.
Yeah, I meant it.
So.
You're a savage.
What? Side note, you're a savage. What would you say? Let's kind of tie this topic of like investing in ourselves.
Yeah.
What's the biggest thing you have gained or learned from, investing in something that we did together? And for us, it happens to be a mastermind, but like you can invest in anything. You could invest in going to therapy together, going to like learning a new hobby together. But for us, this year it was this mastermind. What would you say, like personally or like for both of us, as far as like our relationship, but what have you gained from that?
I don't even think I can quantify it. I've gained so much from it. I think my money mindset has shifted a lot. Mm-hmm. And I see, like I've always heard like, oh yeah, money is just an exchange of energy and it's, but I've always been very like, kind of like this with money. Like I really like, I'll invest, but like, it kind of pains me when it leaves. Maybe it'll come back, but I really believe that when you just focus on delivering value and contributing, like the resources will come your way, and then you can just literally make a bigger impact.
Yeah.
And so just being around people who think big, who don't let money get in the way of investing. I mean, there's so many people I've talked to and they're just like, you just need to be creative. Like if you want to do this, there's plenty of money around. Like there's plenty of resources around. You just have to be resourceful. And you hear it so much, but just to be around the energy and to be around the unstoppableness of people who have done the things you have, they're a couple steps down the journey to learn the ins and outs of not only the tactics of how to do it, but the mindset around it was invaluable. And boy, it just made a huge difference for me. And it brought us so close together. Like we get to work intimately in our business together, and we're investing in real estate together. Like we're doing different things that I thought were going to take way longer to do, but they're happening quicker because we invested more money than I thought possible in ourselves, but it's coming back faster than we ever anticipated. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't always work like that, but it is for us. And I think it has to do with just playing full out and really learning the most we can. So I rambled on a ton, but I've learned
that was good.
So much from totally worth it. And then some.
Yeah. And I think, as we've made some of these bigger investments than even the first mastermind, it really, again, it stretches you. So if we had invested like the same amount that first mastermind was, that wouldn't have felt as scary anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I talk about this all the time. I wish that I could just get myself to do really big things without getting massively uncomfortable, especially like investing an uncomfortable amount. But I've come to just own the fact that really is a lot of times where the biggest breakthroughs come, still making sure it's like a responsible investment, of course.
Yes.
But I think you're right. Our money mindset collectively grew a ton this year.
Yeah.
We made our first investment in a company.
Yeah.
And then I think we both had it like, well, we can't do that and get an investment property the same year. But like you said, getting creative, like looking for how can we, not like yes or no, can we or can we not.
Right.
And we had like, in terms of expansion, we've had like one of the biggest years for us collectively in just making some of these like investments in the future. So that might make a good future topic, talking about investing and what we've learned. But it's been cool. And honestly, I'm just so grateful to have had this experience with you.
Yeah.
And it files under when I talked last time about like, for me, it's important to know that we're always doing something that has us growing together.
Yeah.
I would say like doing this mastermind together has been my favorite way that we've done that.
Surprisingly, mine too.
Yeah.
I was a little bit nervous / like, is this like, am I going to get anything out of it? Like there's so many things going on in the back of my mind, but boy, it's just been, I can't even tell you how good it's been for us.
Yeah. Okay, stay tuned. We'll see what's next.
Yeah. Remember, you're not meant to do this alone.